digital are for all.
You're unbelievable.
Hi, how are you?
You're so unbelievable.
Yeah, I hug everyone. Hi guys. Oh, everybody.
You're unbelievable.
Ooh, there's a man.
We let one man in. It's a very special moment. So my name is Sheila Kolhatkar. I'm a writer and editor at Bloomberg Businessweek, and I write a lot about women in business and gender and diversity issues. I'm going to quickly introduce this amazing panel. Because these individuals are so accomplished, I'm going to need to read their bios, so please pardon me. So Celine, right next to me, is indeed 17. She's a student at the Lycée Français, and she is passionate about technology and coding, and she's already developing her first startup. So we are going to look to her to give us some tips about how we can bring more women and girls into this field. Next we have Laetitia Garriot de Cailleux, who's an investor and entrepreneur, the co-founder of Entrepreneurs for Hillary, also a co-founder of Escape Dynamics, a rocket technology company, which is very interesting. And she began her career in finance, worked at Goldman Sachs, other big impressive firms. She has an MBA from Harvard. Next we have Rachel Weiss, the VP of Digital Innovation at L'Oreal, where she's responsible for creating digital marketing and innovation strategy for the company, as well as new digital business ventures and partnerships at the company. And she's a frequent speaker on issues pertaining to brand innovation, technology, diversity. Next, we have Rachel Rothman, who's the chief technologist at Good Housekeeping at Hearst. And she also has a degree in engineering. She oversees consumer product testing methodology. She's responsible for consumer technology, auto, home improvement, and toy coverage for Good Housekeeping. And she is a lover of gadgets, I understand. And then we have finally our token man, because we did not want to be accused of including men, Sri Srinivasan, who's the Chief Digital Officer of the Metropolitan Museum. And formerly of Columbia University, who's the first chief digital officer there. He's also an entrepreneur and a frequent speaker on issues pertaining to technology and the importance of technology. So I wanted to begin by just quickly reading a tiny tidbit from this op-ed that was in the New York Times on March 25th called "The Only Girl at Her Science Camp." It was written by a woman about her 7-year-old daughter. And she writes, "Last summer, I dropped her off at Blast Off Camp at our local arts center, where kids created projects related to science and planets. Out of 10 children with little backpacks and beaming faces, she was the only girl. I smiled at her obvious excitement as I waved goodbye, but worried about the implications of how often the gendering of interests happens in the lives of our children. She may well be the only girl in the room for years to come." So that is sort of the theme and why we're here right now, the question of why there are so few girls and what we can do about it. So I thought maybe we could start with Rachel R. Sure. Who has a degree in engineering, where there are, I think, 5% women, or perhaps there were at the time. So maybe you could tell us about what that was like for you and how you coped.
Definitely. So at the time that I went, I had a similar incident. I walked into my first computer science class, and the professor said to me, "What class are you looking for?" And I said, "CS 115, thank you very much," and I took my seat. And there were probably about 5% women in that class, and when we graduated, probably similar numbers. So unfortunately, at the time, the numbers were still very low, and I think anything that we can do to better support women. I had the most incredibly supportive family. I have some family in the audience right now. And I was one of the lucky ones, but I definitely didn't have a system of mentorship or other people that I could look to, whether it be in the classroom, whether it be teachers, things of that nature. So I definitely think that there's a lot we can do in terms of education, in terms of the people that are there, in terms of the programs that we're doing. And again, I was in the right place at the right time, and things went really well for me. But I know a lot of people who kind of fall off along the way. So that's why we're here. That's what we're here to talk about.
So Celine, I would love to ask you, you've had this experience probably fairly recently. You may have it on an ongoing basis. So can you describe, some of your experiences in doing science and tech, and how many girls there are with you and what that feels like?
So I took my first coding class in 9th grade, and I was the only girl out of a class of 17, and then there's another girl that joined. And it's true, it was a weird feeling because you're surrounded by boys, and actually most of the boys asked me why I was here and if I was in the correct classroom. But something that empowered me a lot to continue was the fact that my teacher was a woman, and she was very passionate about what she was doing, and she was very passionate about helping women succeed in that field. And that's what gave me the drive to continue throughout the year, even though I remained after a while the only girl after the other one quit because there were no girls. And so I feel like it's a very important issue. Again, I did a program to build startups. We were 3 girls out of 24. And I built a team, and we were 2 girls and 1 stopped after a while. So I was a girl all alone with the CEO, with boys running the rest of the company. And it was hard because they often don't take your opinion, or when they hear the opinion, they say, yeah, but you're a girl, so like, yeah, we're listening, but no. And so it is very important to be respected and to realize that we have to work really hard to get our opinions out there. And it's very different than what we think, because we see the world changing and more females being in power. But it's true that on a collegiate or high school level, it doesn't change a lot in the end.
So, Leticia, I thought maybe you could give us a quick sense of, I think we all agree that it's really important to draw more women and girls into these fields, but could you give us your take on sort of why it's critical? Why do we need girls getting into these fields?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's important when we think about why that we don't answer, well, because for gender diversity, of course, like, you know, everyone should be equal. Because the problem is this won't get the buy-in from so many people, sadly. So we have to make the economic case. And, you know, one thing I love about, you know, working with the Hillary Clinton campaign is that Hillary really gets that it's important, not just for gender equality, it's important for our country, for the world. Having more women in STEM will increase innovation, and it will increase prosperity in general. Why will it increase innovation? Because when you increase the richness and the diversity of the talent pool, sharing examples of when the talent pool is not diverse, innovation goes wrong. Innovation doesn't work. So Rachel has a lot of experience with testing, and so she may know of this example. But there are tons of unconscious bias that turn into procedural bias in experiment and testing. And in clinical research, for example, that some of you may take at night if they have trouble sleeping. Well, when it got on the market, we realized, and I wasn't working at the company that was manufacturing or commercializing this drug, but it for women was wrong. Why? Because no women were involved in the clinical research trial. And that's the kind of unconscious and procedural bias that just happened because no woman is involved. And so really need to get women involved. Because as we know, I mean, STEM jobs tend to be higher paying jobs, and women reinvest their earnings mostly in their community and making things better around them. So those, I think, are 2 critical points: increasing innovation, increasing prosperity, and a strong economic case that we should all make and continue to make.
Sri, I feel like this falls into your area since you spend a lot of time trying to persuade individuals and reluctant institutions to embrace the digital. Why do we need to be getting women into this?
Sure. Thank you for having me here. I'm trying to lean in as much as I can and be on this panel. I made a vow to my little girl that I wouldn't be on any all-male panels this year. And I think if more of us said we wouldn't attend all-male panels, there wouldn't be all-male panels. So I'm delighted to be the token male here and to learn from all of you. I believe the other 2 men speaking today are both named Ed, so I bring some Conversation is so important. So we work at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in our digital work. The hardest thing I do every day is think about how do we recruit, retain, promote digital talent in a city where we're competing with Wall Street, with Google, Facebook, and offer no bonus, no equity. How do we do that? And as part of that, also as part of our hiring, we want to have strong diversity and strong gender representation. And that means that we have to think about what are the incentives we give to get people to work, but also one of the things I've learned about working with young people. Otherwise, I wouldn't have a 70-person digital department at the Met if it was all, only based on money. So people are motivated for different things, and I think especially women are able to see the big picture of when you get to work at a place like the Met, what you're able to do in terms of changing the world of culture and art, and having that impact, I think, is very important to women, and it's really a big part of what we do. The other point I'll just make is that the idea of STEM is really important, but at the Met we talk about STEAM, the A for art, and any women who are listening to conversations about engineering and coding and all of that, who may feel they're not as comfortable with the engineering side, you should know that I spoke to a very well-connected and very influential investor in Silicon Valley who said, we need a lot of designers, we need thinkers, we need poets, we need all of those people as well in Silicon Valley, and Silicon Alley. So I just want to throw that out there. And it's only a combination of both those things, the STEM, the STEAM, the engineering, and the arts that are going to make business successful going forward.
Do you have anything I saw you nodding.
No, I agree completely. I love STEAM. I'm a big fan of STEAM.
Yeah. So I was thinking, since everyone here came into their current role or situation from a different path, I was wondering if we could just go down and each of you could just briefly explain how you got into the sort of digital tech field. And yeah, Rachel, maybe we start with you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a STEAM person before there was STEAM. I've worked at Cinema Studies. I graduated in '95. There really weren't any jobs in tech. I just always really loved the concept. As a kid, I made audio tapes to give to my friends. Imagine someone like myself in like 1990 got my hands on my first Mac and was able to send an email to somebody. I was like, wow, I can tell stories to friends and not have to do zines and audio tapes. And like, I never thought that like what I loved to do as a kid would ever turn into a career. I worked in the entertainment business. I worked, as a comedian in the 90s. And, for me, that was really the turning point of my tech career. I found, and I think you see comedians are early adopters even today of a lot of technology because it's a great way to tell stories and get people to come to your shows. I had a GeoCities site that I used to promote my comedy and write stories. I didn't even own my own computer. I couldn't afford one. I did it at a computer center and the computer cafe on the corner of Jones and Bleecker Street, which closed many years ago. But, I was just doing my thing and trying to work through the day, and then someone came to me and he was like, there's really great jobs for women in the future of what new media is and marketing and doing what you love to do. And I ended up getting a job at Sony Online Entertainment. They were launching a gaming site, and it was in marketing and advertising. I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but that really turned to my career. And then 9/11 happened, and we had the bubble, and I was working in a restaurant, but I was still blogging. I went blogging crazy. I was taking so much time on my own personal time doing what I love to do, and that's turned into an amazing career for me. I lead innovation at L'Oreal, where it's creative, it's full circle. We talk about technology, it's business. But my plan really never was having a plan. It was very much just about doing.
I think another one of the big issues is that women constantly underestimate themselves. I speak from personal experience. When I was applying for my job, I literally could not have been a better candidate for this job. They wanted a mechanical engineer who had communication skills, who loved gadgets. Had a mechanical engineering degree, I had had a stint in PR and communication, and my family owned and operated a consumer electronics business. Dinner fodder was literally talking about gadgets and consumer electronics, and it was literally a part of my DNA. So here person for this position, and I go in and I walk out and I'm like, I definitely didn't get that job. There's no way. I'm definitely not qualified for it. I'm sure there were a million people who went in who were better for this. So I think that that's another key thing that, instilling the confidence and going in and owning your skills. And it's about it. I can walk into a room and I can eloquently speak about the things that I'm doing and what I'm proud of and my strengths. But literally, I had had a pathway to success for this particular career, and I walked in and didn't even feel as such. So that's another critical thing that I think that we can help foster with women.
Yeah, can I say something? So we had this amazing party at L'Oreal to launch our Women in Digital program, and Tina Fey spoke, and she actually said, a woman who's broken the male barrier in comedy, she said, don't be the only woman in the room. And I've really been thinking about that recently, of what that means. And, what she really meant in reflection is about, be yourself and be authentic, and don't always really interesting perspective that, when she said it, it's something that really, really stuck with me, because you are still going to be, unlike today, often the only woman in the room. And I lead, probably like you do, a weird life where it's I work in the cosmetic business where it's 80% women, but I work, on the out. I lead this, bipolar life. And, the only way that you can really address it is just be yourself. I mean, I think that's a really important thing that I don't think women always think about. It's okay. You will face jerks. You will face criticism. I've been in situations where I've taken a date to a venture dinner, and they go straight to him, and they're like, oh, who's she? And it's like, he's my +1. But, that happens, and you just have to be yourself, and and ballsy, and do your thing, and do your thing, and because at the end of the day, you got to go home and be happy with what you do.
Yeah, I want to jump in there as well and share a personal anecdote that I think goes to the sort of make sure you're confident in what you can bring to the table, whatever your experience, whatever your life story is. I recently, a couple of months ago, I get this email in my mailbox, and I guess there's a room of. The email is from someone who works closely with Steve Wozniak, who says basically you're one of at the very top of a list of 5 people that he really wants to be part of his inaugural conference. And I look at this, and I literally turn to my husband and say, I think they meant to send that email to you. And we actually both had to look at the email over and over again. It was really me. Then my next reaction, completely discounting myself, or a space technology R&D program, so it's and we're sort of shelving it now for a while. NASA's going to take over and do stuff around beam propulsion. So, no, we really would like you to come. It's even better if you're not completely actively pushing it now. Okay, well, do you want me to send you maybe one of the PhDs on the team? Because I don't have a PhD in astrophysics. Literally, 3 times I went back saying, are you really sure you want me? They're like, we want you, just understand, please come. So I went, and then from one thing to the next, I ended up introducing them some quantum physicist friend who did a fantastic panel on people loved. They asked me 2 days before, would you be the moderator for that quantum physics panel? I'm not a quantum physicist. And I'm like, okay, by now I get it. They like me. Let's go for it. I ended up doing 2 panels, and it was fantastic. And as I look back, yeah, it wouldn't have been the same had it been, I did believe I brought value, and so let's believe in ourselves, and let's take on this opportunity.
Celine, how did you get interested? Did someone inspire you?
So probably my parents. The first time I saw a computer, it was my dad on a computer, and I was a very daddy's girl when I was a child. And I always saw my dad on a computer, and it always amazed me. I didn't know what he was doing on it. I didn't even know I thought it was a magic box. And so I touched my first computer when I was 8. I actually loved using the computer. So I taught myself how to use it correctly, and started doing more and more applications, started wondering how it worked, the inside, the outside. And so that led me to where I am for technology now. And probably the drive for entrepreneurship is probably from my mom, because my mom works in a field where it's male dominated. She works in a like it's an amazing opportunity that she has because she influences a whole room as a woman. And I wanted to do the same. I want to influence and I want to help women come into a field where it's male dominated. I want to be the first one to step in the 5% classroom in coding. And I want to bring others along. And so I did this and try to get. Yeah, so most of my confidence comes from my parents who support me in this. And I feel like it's very important to want to represent something that is bigger than you.
Incredible. I mean, having amazing, inspirational parents definitely helps. Highly recommend it to anyone. Did they encourage you, or was this largely driven by you? Or were they kind of saying, here, look, check out this new cool thing? I'm partly looking for tips because...
Yeah,
no.
We got an email at school to say for the entrepreneurship business program. So my mom saw it and sent me the link because I read the school paper once or twice. And we went and it was amazing. I was the only girl also, so it was kind of shocking. But it was amazing, and so I signed up and did the program. And for computer science, I didn't know my dad signed me up. And I learned like the Thursday that it was starting that I was in the club. So at first it made me laugh, but I knew it was a great opportunity and it was something I loved doing. So I went and I loved it. It was so amazing. The teacher was amazing. And well, after we had a really interesting conversation, and she asked me if I felt comfortable. And that's when I realized that, yeah, I was the only girl, but I did feel comfortable because it was in an era that I was very passionate about. And so I think that if you're passionate about something, like very passionate, it's what you want to do, no matter if you're a girl or a boy. That's why I think that often women are scared to be the first person to go into that 5%. But if you don't do it, nobody else will. And it's always going to stay the same number. I actually visited a university and asked them the percent. It's still 5%. It's really sad. And so that's when I realized that I had to stop caring. Well, I have to do it.
Amazing. Sri, where...
I think we could give a shout out to your mom. I see her in the corner.
You were an early adopter, early to embrace social media, for example, and other things. Where did you get that? Who exposed you to that world?
I would say that it's my grandmother who had very little even school education, who in 1996 got an email. She heard about this thing called email in India, and she knew this was a way for her to keep in touch with her grandson in America. And so the way the email worked there was that you would write an email in a bicycle basket and cycle to her house, and then she would dictate a response, and then he would cycle back. And that was the beginning. 6 continents or whatever, and we're on WhatsApp all the time, right? So she's no longer with us, but she, even without the education, without knowing technology, she understood that email was something. Respond to a couple of things that have been said here. My daughter was watching, so I have two 12-year-olds, and a couple of years ago when Sheryl Sandberg did the famous book, on 60 Minutes, I remember, I'll never forget this, and I will watching very intently as she heard Sheryl say that we have to teach little girls, because when we say to them, little girls who show leadership skills, we say they're bossy. Instead of saying they're leaders, they're bossy. And so this 9-year-old, like her brows like completely furrowed and listening very carefully, and she said, I'm not bossy, I'm a leader. Like she kept saying, this to us. And Don't be the only woman, or what did she
She said, don't be the only woman.
Yeah, don't be the only woman means, I think to me also, bring along another woman when you get a chance to, like if anyone, and I know panel organizers do this sometimes, they'll call you and then they're asking you in part because they want you to be the woman on the panel. And you'll say, well, I have this other person who's also fantastic. And as someone who organizes a lot of panels, I would love recommendations on speakers at any time. Please email me. I'm street. I'd love to get ideas.
Great. I'm sure your email box is going to fill up very quickly. So I think, I mean, there seems to be a tough question, though, of just how to do this. Because, yes, there are a few women who sort of shove their way in, and often it's hard to be one of the only ones or to be alone. Do any of you, just based on your own experience, can you think of one thing that would really make a difference in terms of other girls?
Yeah, I mean, at L'Oreal, I really have been feeling this problem my whole career. And, I'm at the point in my career where I can have a platform and a big corporation. Have money and testing opportunities, and I think Catherine addressed it, sponsorship of female entrepreneurs to work with L'Oreal, because we know sometimes the hardest part about being an entrepreneur is just getting your first customer or getting advice or getting to create a program. We have long supported women in science in their graduate careers called L'Oreal Women in Science, but it's like, let's really talk about tech and digital. So we created a formal pipeline. We have money aside for that to work with entrepreneurs. Nominate yourselves. We look at every company, and it's really, honestly, the biggest pipeline of innovation that we have for L'Oreal. We really love to work with early stage entrepreneurs. I was really proud. We had a global CMO summit from our CMOs from all around the world, and they asked me, of course, they always want to see startups, and I programmed some great companies, and I realized that 4 out of the 6 were women that we met through this pipeline that 5 years ago, and I've seen them evolve as entrepreneurs. They're part of our L'Oreal family. They've raised money. It was really exciting. So I believe from a corporate and social responsibility in my kind of role, if you and sponsor, that's something that that I've done, that I'm very lucky and grateful that I have a great company that supported that.
No, that's a great suggestion. Something I've written about a little bit is the fact that it has become very fashionable for companies and corporations to kind of embrace STEM and all this.
It was really great, because when I pitched the program, and you have to remember, this is 5 years old, so we were really one of the first. And then I went in to speak to our male CEO, and he's like, and I was working in a brand. There was no innovation role at that time, and he's like, I don't understand. Let me see. At her, I'm one of these women, and then the next day, it's like, I get it. So it was just tenacity is really important, I think, for whether you're a young student or you're later in your career, or you're a male, you're CDO working Monday to women. We all have to be tenacious all the time, and that's a trait, and I think that's one thing you could do for yourself. But if you have an opportunity to help and sponsor her, then do it. Don't say no.
Yeah, good advice.
And I'll say start even younger. I mean, 3 of you have kids right now. I got one brewing in here. Oh. So now more than I'm hyper aware to it, but get them engaged in different things with science. I think that there's a lot we can do on the educational reform side, but inside your own home, there's so many resources available online now. Again, I'm Art Rothman at Hearst.com. I am happy to share with you top games in the STEM field, programs that you could be doing. I also open up the Good Housekeeping Institute. Any of your kids, any of your friends, any schools, etc., come on in. I have chemical engineers, I have chemists, I have mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, registered dietitians, predominantly women. Come and see STEM in action. So I think, again, engage them when they're really young, give them things that are for me, a lot of it, I think, is the dialogue that is happening between it. So I think men and women, it has to be a slightly different conversation that's happening with them. So I think games and things of that nature, Dash and Dot, if any of you are familiar with it, I'm a big fan of that one. Anyone? No? And yeah, got one. Yeah, woo! Big fan. Go look it up after. Create a pink toy to speak to girls. I think that having a toy, I think having a toy that speaks to both genders, science has proven that if you're engaging boys and girls together, it's not alienating to one. So create toys that are just good STEM toys. I'm happy to share some recommendations.
And can I say something that also I think has been interesting in the research and we've learned in the science is that what's still disappointing to me is that girls are still dropping out of these careers when they're 13 years old. I feel a responsibility. Like, I love to meet, middle school students and talk to them about my job and because they don't realize where their careers can take them. I even was really lucky. I last week met a woman who was getting her PhD in engineering, and she was telling me about her, her job and. L'Oreal, did you know you could work there? We hire people like you. We're thinking about the future of beauty and connected beauty, and she was like.
Never even thought about
she
it.
never even thought about it. So, it goes back to wealth creation. I mean, the future, I think, of our economic workforce, whether it's with a L'Oreal or whether it's with Good Housekeeping or whether it's with a GE or, with these big companies, women are going to comprise the workforce, have the opportunity to drive, the future of these companies, make money, whether it's at a Google or wherever it is, or wherever the next Google will be. We want to make sure that skills to be in the workforce. And, part of, I believe, our corporate and social responsibility is to make sure girls know that these jobs exist. They can work in engineering, they can work in tech. I mean, there's so many different paths, but it's going to include all women and all girls. And I think I want to make sure girls are not missing out on what their future can be.
I think Sri wants to.
I was going to say that since you made a wonderful offer also, I'd say we have a media lab at the Met. I'd love to show you what we do, and I walk people through the Met 3 times a month. So next time is Friday night, 7:30 p.m. if you want to see how 21st century art meets first century technology. Well, please come, 7:30, meet me at the Temple of Dendur. But more importantly, I would also...
You're going to have 500 people showing up next 7.
No,
Rachel and I will be there.
But the idea, I think, also my message to people who hire, right? Where I think we've been talking to all the folks who are looking for work or doing things, that it only works with intentionality. Part of what we try to do when we hire is that we made a mandate that every job that I see finalists for, there have to be women, there have to be minorities, and you have to do it. If you don't insist, it won't happen. It won't happen. There's this idea that diversity just happens. It does not happen like that, and someone has to make the effort. For college and graduate school, as well as high school, we don't pay high school students, but please tell them to come apply and work in digital at the Met.
So we're going to go to questions in a second. I wanted to ask Leticia to mention, also because she has some thoughts on whether or not math is hard for girls.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Well, I'll
So
jump
hard.
in briefly so we can move to... So I sit on the board of the Museum of Mathematics, and I want you all to know that there is no difference in ability between boys and girls. Whenever you hear this, please tell your interlocutor you're wrong, and that's very important. So I think we heard how there are wonderful corporations like L'Oreal and Hearst that are really doing a fantastic thing, and then some of our cultural institutions like the Met. There is a policy element to things. I do think that we'll have the choice in November to elect our next president, and there is something to come from that front and the top down. So, my own pitch is I think Hillary Clinton is absolutely fantastic in that field. She's led the way by hiring the very first female who is a chief technology officer of a campaign, Stephanie Hannon. We need to mention other women here to kind of pop them up. She's the first one in the U.S. to hold that role, and that's a big deal. She was an HBS classmate of mine. The chief digital officer at the campaign is also a woman, Katie Dodd. And so it's the idea of showing to younger girls and students, you can do it too. And I do think we need to expand pre-K and make sure that every 4-year-old in America goes to school, because this unconscious bias that we were talking about, it starts very early. Yeah. Play habits form when kids are get given a doll, and the boy gets given Lego blocks to build with. But when they go to school, they're treated the same way. They start learning, what it is to do all kinds of things. And so getting them to school early is one of the many need to be put in place. Yeah.
Great advice, yeah. Okay, well, thank you, everybody. I think we have time now for questions. I believe someone has a mic, but if they don't, just scream, and we will try our best. We'll understand what you're saying. There's someone right here. Oh.
To say to Celine that it's really inspiring to see you on stage, and I just wanted to know if there had been any particular issues that you've had to face as an entrepreneur at your age.
The answer is yeah. We had a team and it dissolved, so I had to recreate my own team. And so I moved to be CEO as I had created it, and I was told that no, because I was a girl. And it was actually, that was the sentence, is no, because you're a girl. And so that was an issue that got me so mad, because and so I told the person that I was going to be CEO, and if they continued, I was going to kick them off the team. The person was not kicked off the team, though. But and it also happened, I had this huge test, and we were 3 girls, a project, and the jury outside of the room also for 10 minutes, and we were wondering why he wasn't making us do the test because we were late. And after 10 minutes, he looked at us and he was like, do you know where the group that's supposed to present is? And we're like, we don't know, we're also waiting to present. He's like, oh, what are you doing? And we're doing, oh, killer robots. And he looked so shocked to find out that it was 3 girls doing robotics. And we were so proud at that moment to be the 3 girls walking into that room. And to show him that we had knowledge in military, in the technology of it, and to be able, and we think we killed it.
Nice. Nice.
My name's Linda. I have a daughter who's 6. She's not only did her first coding class, she's in her second coding class now, and she's not the only girl. So I think things are changing. I started in computer science. I dropped out. So my question is, women control 80% of the spending. And when I look at a company like Lego, they still only make 1 set. It's called Lego Friends. Yeah. It's for girls. It's girl colors. And what do they make? Hair salon, a cafe. We need to use our leverage and say we control 80% of the spending, and we need to demand toys made for girls in STEM. So, Rachel, I would love your list of toys that you recommend Friday night at the Met.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. I think we are being told to wrap it up now, so thank you to our fabulous panel. Maybe a final round. Thank you so much, guys.
Can we do it?
Thank you so much. Thank you. So we've been talking a lot about entrepreneurship.